Hello and welcome. Today, I'm going to whisper to you about social life in the ancient world, exploring how different civilizations lived, worked, and connected with each other. From the bustling streets of ancient Egypt along the Nile River to the grand cities of the Roman Empire, every region developed its own unique way of life, shaped by its geography, resources, and culture. In this journey, we'll begin by visiting the fertile lands of ancient Egypt, where life revolved around the mighty Nile. Then, we'll move to Mesopotamia, often called the cradle of civilization, and uncover the structure of its ancient cities. We'll dive into the polis life of ancient Greece, where culture and democracy flourished, before exploring the vastness of the Roman Empire and its urban centers. We'll also take a look at the Persian Empire, a vast territory with diverse communities, and the sophisticated urban planning of the Indus Valley civilization. In ancient China, we'll see how dynastic structures shaped everyday life, while the Celtic tribes of Europe reveal their village traditions and social bonds. We won't forget the Mesoamerican civilizations, like the Mayans and Aztecs, and their complex social systems, and finally, we'll sail with the Phoenicians, the great maritime traders of the Mediterranean. So, find a comfortable spot, relax, and let's journey back in time to discover how ancient societies lived, loved, and thrived across different corners of the world. Ancient Egypt, life along the Nile River. In ancient Egypt, life revolved around the Nile River, the lifeblood of the civilization. This mighty river provided the essential resources that sustained Egyptian society, from fertile soil for agriculture to transportation routes that connected distant communities. The social life of ancient Egyptians was deeply intertwined with the rhythm of the Nile, and their daily routines, work, and community structures reflected this close relationship. The Nile's annual flooding, known as the inundation, deposited rich silt along its banks, making the land fertile for farming. Agriculture was the backbone of the Egyptian economy, and the majority of the population worked as farmers. They cultivated crops like wheat, barley, and flax, which were essential for food and textiles. Farming communities lived in small, mud brick houses along the river, forming close-knit villages where cooperation was essential for survival. The planting and harvesting seasons were communal activities, with neighbors working together to ensure the success of their crops. This cooperative spirit extended beyond agriculture. Villagers supported one another in daily tasks and celebrations, fostering a strong sense of community. Social life in ancient Egypt was also organized around a strict hierarchy, deeply influenced by religion and the belief in Ma'at, the concept of order, balance, and harmony. At the top of the social pyramid was the pharaoh, considered a living god responsible for maintaining Ma'at. The pharaoh's authority extended over every aspect of life, from law and justice to religious ceremonies. Beneath the pharaoh were the nobles, who managed the temples, organized state projects, and governed the provinces. Priests, who played a crucial role in maintaining the religious order and conducting rituals, were also part of the elite class. They ensured that the gods were pleased, which was believed to be essential for the prosperity and stability of society. The majority of Egyptians, however, were farmers, artisans, and laborers. Artisans, such as potters, builders, and weavers, played a significant role in Egypt's economy, producing the goods needed for everyday life and the luxurious items that adorned temples and palaces. Craftsmen often worked in workshops, passing their skills down through generations. These workshops were vital hubs of social interaction, where artisans shared knowledge, exchanged stories, and built strong networks within their communities. Laborers, meanwhile, were often employed in large-scale state projects like the construction of pyramids, temples, and irrigation systems. These projects were not only practical but also served as ways to bring the community together, as men from various villages would work side by side, contributing to the greatness of Egypt. Religion was a central aspect of social life in ancient Egypt. Temples were not only places of worship but also served as community centers where festivals, markets, and social gatherings took place. Egyptian society celebrated numerous festivals throughout the year, each dedicated to a particular god or aspect of life. These festivals, such as the Festival of Opet or the Beautiful Feast of the Valley, were opportunities for Egyptians to come together in celebration, enjoying music, food, and dance. They also reinforced the social bonds within the community and affirmed the connection between the people and their gods. Family life was another cornerstone of social structure in Egypt. The ancient Egyptians placed a high value on family and domestic life, considering the family unit as the foundation of society. Marriages were arranged based on social status and family ties, often to strengthen alliances between families. While the husband was typically the head of the household, women also held significant roles in the family and society. Egyptian women could own property, engage in business, and were responsible for managing the home and raising children. The ideal of family harmony, aligned with the principle of Ma'at, was central to Egyptian values, and both men and women were expected to contribute to the well-being of their family and community. Education in ancient Egypt was reserved primarily for boys from noble or wealthy families. Boys learned to read and write using hieroglyphs, a complex script used for religious and administrative purposes. Schools, often located within temples, trained boys to become scribes, a highly respected profession. Scribes played an essential role in maintaining records, conducting administrative duties, and supporting the state's bureaucracy. Girls, on the other hand, were generally taught domestic skills, though some daughters of nobles received education in reading and writing if they intended to serve in religious or administrative roles. Markets and trade were also vital components of Egyptian social life, providing places where people from different regions could gather, exchange goods, and socialize. Local markets offered a variety of items, from food like fish, bread, and fruits to pottery, tools, and textiles. Merchants and traders traveled along the Nile and beyond, facilitating the exchange of goods such as gold, papyrus, and incense. These interactions not only contributed to the economy but also fostered social connections, as traders exchanged stories, news, and ideas with people from different parts of the kingdom and even beyond its borders. Ancient Egyptians valued leisure and entertainment as well. Music and dance were integral parts of their cultural life, with musicians performing during religious ceremonies, festivals, and private gatherings. Egyptians played instruments such as the harp, lyre, and sistrum, a type of rattle used in temple rituals. Board games, like Senet, were popular among all classes, providing a form of relaxation and social interaction. Nobles and royals often held elaborate banquets where they entertained guests with food, drink, music, and storytelling, showcasing the wealth and sophistication of their lifestyle. In summary, social life in ancient Egypt was deeply connected to the Nile and the principle of Ma'at. Egyptians lived in close-knit communities, working together to cultivate the land and maintain the balance of their society. Religion and festivals played central roles in uniting people and fostering a sense of belonging, while markets and trade networks connected distant regions, enriching Egypt's culture and economy. From the grand temples and palaces to the modest homes of farmers, every aspect of Egyptian life reflected the rhythm of the Nile and the enduring quest for harmony and prosperity. As we move forward, we will explore the social dynamics of another great civilization, Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization and its cities. Mesopotamia, often referred to as the cradle of civilization, was home to some of the world's earliest cities, such as Uruk, Babylon, and Nineveh. Nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, Mesopotamia's fertile land provided the resources needed for agriculture, which in turn supported the growth of urban centers and complex societies. The social life in ancient Mesopotamia was centered around these bustling cities, which became hubs of culture, trade, religion, and politics. The structure of Mesopotamian cities was organized around the ziggurat, a massive temple complex that served as the religious, economic, and administrative center of the city. The ziggurat, often dedicated to the city's patron god, was the focal point of social and religious life. It was not only a place of worship but also where the city's leaders conducted important civic duties and managed the economy. The ziggurat and its surrounding structures housed priests, scribes, and officials who played essential roles in maintaining the city's order and prosperity. Religious festivals, ceremonies, and community gatherings frequently took place here, reinforcing the city's spiritual and social cohesion. Social classes in Mesopotamia were hierarchical, with clear distinctions between the elite and the common people. At the top of the social pyramid was the king, who was seen as a representative of the gods on earth and was responsible for maintaining order and justice. Below the king were the nobles and priests, who managed the ziggurats and oversaw religious and civic activities. Priests held significant power, as they were believed to communicate with the gods and ensure the city's prosperity through their rituals. The priesthood was a highly respected position, and many families sought to place their sons within the temple's hierarchy. The scribes, who were educated in the art of cuneiform writing, also held an important place in Mesopotamian society. They were responsible for recording transactions, writing legal documents, and maintaining the city's administrative records. Their role was essential to the functioning of the economy and government, making them part of the elite class. Scribes often worked in temple complexes or in administrative centers where they documented the flow of goods, the enforcement of laws, and other essential aspects of city life. Education to become a scribe was rigorous and typically reserved for boys from wealthy families. The majority of the population consisted of artisans, merchants, farmers, and laborers. Farmers, who lived in the surrounding countryside, played a critical role in sustaining the cities, as they produced the grain, barley, and other crops that were essential to Mesopotamian diet and trade. Irrigation systems, managed by the city's administration, allowed farmers to cultivate the land effectively, even in the dry climate. Laborers, on the other hand, were often employed in large-scale construction projects, such as building ziggurats, city walls, and canals. These projects not only provided jobs, but also reinforced the power of the king, who was seen as the protector and builder of the city. Artisans and merchants thrived within Mesopotamian cities, as urban centers were hubs of craftsmanship and trade. Artisans, such as potters, metalworkers, and weavers, produced goods that were both used locally and traded with distant regions. These workshops were social spaces where artisans exchanged skills and ideas, creating networks that supported the city's economy. Merchants, on the other hand, facilitated trade along the rivers and across Mesopotamia's extensive trade routes. They traded essential goods like grain, textiles, metals, and luxury items such as lapis lazuli and spices. Trade not only supported the economy but also brought new ideas and influences into Mesopotamian cities, enriching their culture and expanding their knowledge of the world. Religion was deeply embedded in the social and cultural life of Mesopotamia. The people believed in a pantheon of gods who controlled various aspects of life, such as agriculture, war, and love. Each city had its patron deity, such as Marduk in Babylon or Ishtar in Uruk. The worship of these gods was central to everyday life, and it was the duty of the king and the priests to appease them through rituals and offerings. Festivals and ceremonies, such as the Akita festival celebrated in Babylon, were occasions for the entire community to come together in celebration, reinforcing social bonds and ensuring the city's prosperity. Mesopotamian family life was organized around patriarchal structures, where the eldest male was the head of the household. Families were the basic units of society, and marriage was often arranged to strengthen alliances between families and secure social status. Women in Mesopotamia generally had fewer rights compared to men, but they played essential roles within the family, managing households and raising children. Some women from noble or wealthy families, however, could become priestesses or scribes, holding positions of influence and power. Education in Mesopotamia was primarily focused on training boys to become scribes or priests. Boys from wealthy or noble families attended temple schools, where they learned to read and write using cuneiform, the world's first known writing system. These schools were rigorous, and students spent years mastering the complex symbols and language used in administrative, legal, and religious texts. Girls' education was generally limited to learning domestic skills, although some noble women received higher education if they intended to enter the priesthood. Markets were vibrant centers of social life in Mesopotamian cities. Local markets offered a variety of goods, from fresh produce to pottery, textiles, and tools. People from different regions gathered to trade, exchange stories, and socialize. These markets also served as spaces where news and information were shared, connecting the city's residents with the broader world. Mesopotamian merchants played a crucial role in expanding the city's influence through trade networks that reached distant regions such as the Indus Valley, Anatolia, and the Persian Gulf. Leisure activities in Mesopotamia included music, dance, and games. Musicians performed during festivals, religious ceremonies, and banquets, using instruments such as the lyre, harp, and drums. Storytelling was another popular form of entertainment, and it was through these oral traditions that tales like the Epic of Gilgamesh were passed down. Board games, such as the Royal Game of Uar, were also enjoyed by both nobles and commoners, providing a form of relaxation and social interaction. In summary, social life in ancient Mesopotamia was shaped by the rivers that sustained its cities, the religious institutions that unified its people, and the trade networks that connected it to the broader world. Mesopotamians built complex societies where urban life, religion, and the economy intertwined, creating a rich cultural legacy that continues to influence modern civilization. As we move forward, we will explore the social dynamics of another significant region, ancient Greece and its polis-centered society. Ancient Greece, polis life and cultural development. In ancient Greece, the concept of the polis, city-state, was central to social, political, and cultural life. Each polis functioned as an independent entity with its own government, economy, and traditions. The most famous examples include Athens, Sparta, Corinth, and Thebes. The way of life in these city-states varied significantly, but all shared the idea of a polis as a community of citizens who participated actively in the public, religious, and cultural affairs of their city. The social structure of the polis was hierarchical, with clear distinctions between citizens, non-citizens, and slaves. Citizens, usually free adult males born in the polis, had the most rights and were actively involved in the governance of their city. In Athens, for example, citizens participated in a direct democracy where they voted on laws and policies. These citizens, known as hoplites when serving as soldiers, also defended the city-state in times of war, making military service a key aspect of citizenship. Women, children, and medics, resident foreigners, were excluded from political participation, although they played essential roles in other aspects of society. Women's roles varied across the Greek city-states, with Athenian women being largely confined to the household, while Spartan women enjoyed greater freedoms and were involved in physical training and managing estates. In Athens, the ideal woman was expected to be devoted to her family, raising children, and managing the household. Athenian women rarely participated in public life, as the home was considered their primary domain. In contrast, Spartan women had more autonomy. They were educated, could own property, and had a public presence, reflecting Sparta's focus on producing strong citizens for its military society. Slavery was also a common institution in the Greek polis. Slaves performed various tasks, from domestic service to working in the fields and mines. They were considered property and had no rights within the polis. However, some slaves, particularly those who worked as household servants or skilled artisans, could gain their freedom and even achieve a modest level of prosperity. Education played a crucial role in Greek society, particularly in Athens, where young boys were educated in grammar, music, gymnastics, and philosophy. The goal was to develop well-rounded individuals who could participate actively in public life. Gymnasiums and palaestri, wrestling schools, were common in many cities, serving not only as places of physical training but also as social hubs where citizens exchanged ideas and discussed politics and philosophy. Prominent philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle emerged from this environment, shaping not only Greek thought but also Western civilization as a whole. Religion was a central aspect of social life in the Greek polis. The Greeks worshipped a pantheon of gods led by Zeus, and each polis had its patron deity. For instance, Athens was dedicated to Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war. Temples were built to honor these gods, and religious festivals played an important role in uniting the community. Events such as the Panathenaic Festival in Athens or the Gymnopaedia in Sparta were not only religious but also social and cultural celebrations where citizens came together to honor their gods, compete in athletic events, and participate in processions and feasts. Athletic competitions were particularly significant in Greek society, reflecting the cultural importance of physical fitness and competition. The most famous of these were the Olympic Games, held in Olympia every 4 years. These games brought together athletes from different city-states who competed in events such as running, wrestling, and chariot racing. The games were a religious and social event that emphasized unity among the Greeks while also showcasing the competitive spirit that was central to Greek identity. In addition to religious festivals and athletic competitions, theater was another crucial component of social life in ancient Greece, particularly in Athens. Dramatic festivals like the Dionysia celebrated the god Dionysus and featured performances of tragedies and comedies by playwrights such as Sophocles, Euripides, and Aristophanes. These performances were more than mere entertainment. They were civic events that explored complex social, political, and moral issues, allowing citizens to engage with and reflect on the values and challenges of their society. The agora, or marketplace, was the economic and social heart of the Greek polis. It was not only a place for buying and selling goods, but also a space where citizens gathered to discuss politics, philosophy, and current events. In Athens, the agora was filled with merchants selling products like pottery, olive oil, and textiles, while philosophers like Socrates engaged in debates and conversations with passers-by. The agora was a vibrant and dynamic center of public life, where the economy, politics, and social interaction intertwined. Housing in ancient Greece reflected social status and wealth. The homes of wealthier citizens were often centered around a courtyard and included rooms for various activities such as cooking, dining, and entertaining guests. Poorer citizens, however, lived in smaller, simpler homes. In Athens, houses were typically built with mud bricks and had modest furnishings. While the interior of the home was considered the woman's domain, men often spent their time outside, engaging in the public life of the polis, whether at the agora, gymnasium, or in political assemblies. Greek society valued symposia, or drinking parties, where male citizens gathered to discuss philosophy, politics, and poetry. These gatherings were important social events that allowed citizens to bond and exchange ideas in a relaxed environment. While symposia were mostly exclusive to men, certain celebrations included women who entertained the guests with music and dance. Trade was another crucial aspect of social life in ancient Greece, particularly for city-states like Athens and Corinth, which were major commercial hubs. The Greeks traded olive oil, wine, pottery, and silver, while importing goods like grain, timber, and luxury items such as perfumes and spices. The expansion of Greek colonies throughout the Mediterranean and the Black Sea facilitated this trade network, connecting the Greek world with cultures as far as Egypt, Persia, and Italy. Trade routes not only enriched the economy but also brought cultural exchanges, spreading Greek ideas, art, and architecture beyond the mainland. In summary, social life in ancient Greece was dynamic and varied, deeply influenced by the unique structure of the polis and the values of citizenship, competition, and intellectual pursuit. Religion, festivals, education, and public discourse played crucial roles in shaping the social fabric of Greek city-states, while the agora, gymnasium, and theater provided spaces for citizens to engage in the vibrant communal life that characterized ancient Greece. As we continue, we will explore another powerful civilization, the Roman Empire, and the vast social networks that connected its urban centers and provinces. The Roman Empire, urban centers, and provincial life. The Roman Empire, one of the most extensive and influential civilizations in history, had a diverse and complex social structure that spanned its vast territories. From the bustling urban centers of Rome and Pompeii to the distant provinces like Gaul, Egypt, and Britannia, Roman social life was shaped by the empire's expansive geography, its hierarchical class system, and the infrastructure that connected its people across continents. At the heart of the Roman Empire was the city of Rome itself, a thriving metropolis that was the political, economic, and cultural center of the empire. Rome's urban landscape was characterized by its impressive architecture, including forums, temples, basilicas, and the Grand Colosseum, where citizens gathered for entertainment. The Forum was the social and political hub of the city, where people met to discuss politics, conduct business, and socialize. It was also where important temples were located, making it a central place for both civic and religious life. The grandeur of Rome's architecture was not just for aesthetic purposes, it also symbolized the power and wealth of the empire. Social structure in the Roman Empire was hierarchical, with clear divisions between the different classes. At the top of this hierarchy was the emperor, who wielded absolute power and was often worshipped as a god. Below the emperor were the senators, an elite group of wealthy landowners and politicians who played crucial roles in governing the empire. The senators owned vast estates, had significant influence over political decisions, and were often seen as the guardians of Roman traditions. Beneath the senators were the equestrians, a class of wealthy citizens who often managed businesses, served in the military, or held administrative positions. These two upper classes enjoyed privileges that allowed them to live in luxurious villas, dine at elaborate banquets, and participate in the cultural and political life of the empire. The majority of the population consisted of plebeians, or common citizens, who worked as artisans, farmers, merchants, and laborers. In urban centers, plebeians lived in insulae, which were multi-story apartment buildings that often housed several families in cramped conditions. These apartment blocks were a stark contrast to the spacious villas of the upper classes and highlighted the economic disparity within Roman society. Despite these challenges, plebeians were integral to the functioning of the empire, providing labor for construction projects, farming, and service industries. They also participated in public events and festivals, which were important aspects of Roman social life. Slaves formed the lowest class in Roman society and played a vital role in its economy. Slaves worked in various capacities, from domestic servants and farm laborers to skilled craftsmen and even teachers. Many were prisoners of war or people who had been sold into slavery from conquered regions. In large cities like Rome, some slaves had the opportunity to earn their freedom and become freedmen, who often remained loyal to their former masters and sometimes even achieved a modest level of wealth. Freedmen could work as traders, artisans, or entrepreneurs, contributing to the economic dynamism of urban centers. Religion was deeply embedded in Roman social life. The Romans worshipped a wide range of gods and goddesses, many of which were adopted from other cultures, such as the Greek Zeus, Roman Jupiter, or the Egyptian Isis. Temples were scattered throughout the empire, serving not only as places of worship but also as community centers where festivals, markets, and public gatherings took place. Religious festivals, like the Saturnalia, were significant events where Romans of all classes came together to celebrate, feast, and engage in games and entertainment. These festivals reinforced social bonds and the collective identity of Roman citizens, emphasizing unity under the emperor and the empire's gods. The baths, or thermae, were another central aspect of Roman social life, particularly in urban centers. These public bathing complexes were not just places for hygiene but were also important venues for social interaction and leisure. Men and women of all classes visited the baths, which offered facilities like saunas, cold pools, exercise areas, and libraries. The baths served as places where people discussed politics, conducted business, and engaged in leisure activities like playing games and listening to music. For the Romans, the baths symbolized a shared cultural experience and a sense of community, transcending social classes in a unique way. Theaters, Amphitheaters and circuses were also popular places for Romans to gather. The Colosseum in Rome hosted gladiatorial games, where crowds of thousands cheered for their favorite fighters or watched wild animal hunts. The Circus Maximus, another major venue, was famous for its chariot races, which attracted massive audiences. These spectacles were not only forms of entertainment but also political tools used by the emperors to gain public favor and demonstrate their power. By providing free or subsidized entertainment, the emperors ensured loyalty among the plebeians and reinforced the social hierarchy, as the elite often had privileged seating areas that showcased their status. In the provinces, life varied significantly depending on the region and its level of integration into the Roman Empire. In Romanized regions like Gaul and Hispania, cities developed infrastructures similar to those in Italy, with forums, temples, and baths serving as centers of social life. These cities became hubs of Roman culture, where local elites adopted Roman customs and governance structures. In contrast, more distant and less integrated provinces, like parts of Britannia and Germania, retained many of their traditional ways of life, with Roman influence limited to military forts and administrative centers. Trade and commerce were crucial to the Roman Empire's economy and social life. The empire's extensive road network, including the famous Via Appia, facilitated the movement of goods, people, and ideas across vast distances. Roman merchants traded wine, olive oil, pottery, and luxury goods like spices and silk, connecting the empire's provinces with distant regions such as India and China through the Silk Road. Markets in cities like Rome, Ostia, and Pompeii were bustling centers where merchants, artisans, and customers interacted, exchanged stories, and built social networks. These markets not only supported the economy but also created vibrant spaces for social interaction and cultural exchange. In summary, social life in the Roman Empire was dynamic and varied, deeply influenced by the empire's vast geography and complex social hierarchy. From the grand urban centers like Rome, with their forums, baths, and theaters, to the distant provinces where Roman culture mingled with local traditions, the empire fostered a rich and interconnected social fabric. Religion, festivals, entertainment, and trade were all integral to Roman social life, creating a sense of unity and shared identity across the diverse communities within the empire. As we continue, we will explore the vast Persian Empire and the social dynamics that flourished within its multicultural realm. Persian Empire, social life across a vast empire. The Persian Empire, also known as the Achaemenid Empire, was one of the largest empires of the ancient world, spanning from Anatolia and Egypt to India and Central Asia. This vast territory encompassed diverse cultures, languages, and peoples, all governed under the central authority of the Persian king, who was considered the king of kings. Social life within this vast empire was shaped by its multicultural nature, a highly organized administrative system, and the influence of the Persian nobility, who played crucial roles in maintaining unity and order. At the center of the Persian social structure was the king, or Shahanshah, king of kings. The king held absolute power and was regarded as a divine figure, chosen by Ahura Mazda, the chief deity in the Zoroastrian religion. The king's authority extended throughout the empire, and his word was law. However, the Persian kings were known for their relatively tolerant rule, allowing conquered peoples to maintain their customs, religions, and local governance as long as they pledged loyalty and paid tribute to the empire. This policy of tolerance was crucial in maintaining stability across such a diverse and expansive realm. Below the king was the nobility, composed of Persian aristocrats and the satraps, who governed the empire's provinces, or satrapies. The satraps acted as the king's representatives, overseeing taxation, justice, and local military forces. The nobility lived in luxury, often residing in grand palaces in cities like Persepolis, Susa, and Babylon. They played a significant role in the empire's administration, maintaining order and ensuring the loyalty of the various ethnic groups under Persian rule. The aristocracy also participated in court ceremonies and royal hunts, which were important social events that reinforced their status and loyalty to the king. The Persian Empire's administrative efficiency was supported by an extensive network of roads and communication systems. The most famous of these was the Royal Road, which stretched over 2,500 kilometers from Susa to Sardis. This network facilitated not only the movement of troops and officials but also trade and social interaction across the empire. Along these roads were way stations and inns, called caravanserais, which served as hubs for merchants, travelers, and messengers. These establishments played a critical role in connecting people from different regions, enabling the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures. Social classes in the Persian Empire were diverse and reflected the empire's multicultural nature. The Persian nobility was at the top of the social pyramid, followed by the priesthood and military officers. The priests, known as magi, were influential figures in Persian society, overseeing religious practices and temples. Zoroastrianism, the state religion of Persia, emphasized the duality of good and evil and the importance of maintaining cosmic order. The Magi conducted rituals and ceremonies to honor Ahura Mazda and protect the empire from evil forces. Their role extended beyond religious duties. They also served as advisors to the king and participated in state affairs. The military was another important component of Persian society. The empire maintained a large and diverse army, composed of Persian soldiers as well as troops from various regions within the empire, such as Medes, Scythians, Egyptians, and Indians. These soldiers were organized into units based on their regions and fought under the Persian banner. The nobility often served as commanders and cavalrymen, reinforcing their status and loyalty to the king. The military was not only a means of defending the empire's borders, but also a way for individuals to gain honor, wealth, and prestige. The majority of the population consisted of farmers, artisans, and merchants. Agriculture was the backbone of the Persian economy, and the empire's vast and varied landscapes allowed for the cultivation of diverse crops, including wheat, barley, grapes, and olives. Farmers worked the land either on their own or as tenants on estates owned by the nobility. Persian kings implemented irrigation systems such as qanats, underground canals, to improve agricultural productivity, especially in arid regions. These irrigation techniques allowed for the expansion of farming communities and the development of new settlements. Artisans played a crucial role in Persian cities, producing goods such as textiles, pottery, metalwork, and luxury items like jewelry and carpets. Persian craftsmanship was renowned for its quality, and goods produced by Persian artisans were highly valued both within the empire and in neighboring regions. The markets in cities like Persepolis and Babylon were vibrant centers of commerce, where merchants traded a wide range of products, from local agricultural goods to exotic items like spices, silk, and incense brought from distant lands. These markets were not only economic hubs, but also social spaces where people gathered, exchanged news, and built connections. The Persian Empire's tolerance of different cultures allowed for the coexistence of various religious and social practices. Temples, shrines, and religious communities from diverse traditions, including Babylonian, Egyptian, Jewish, and Greek, flourished under Persian rule. In cities like Babylon, temples dedicated to gods such as Marduk coexisted alongside Zoroastrian fire temples, demonstrating the empire's pluralistic nature. Religious festivals and ceremonies were important social events, bringing together people from different backgrounds and reinforcing the cultural diversity of the empire. Family life in the Persian Empire varied according to social status and region. The Persian nobility lived in large households with extended family members and numerous servants. Marriages were often arranged to strengthen alliances between noble families and maintain social status. Persian women of the nobility had some influence within the household and could manage estates or participate in social events. Common families, especially those of farmers and artisans, lived more modestly. They worked together to sustain their households, and children were expected to learn the skills of their parents, whether in agriculture, trade, or craftsmanship. Education in the Persian Empire was mainly reserved for the nobility and those destined to become priests or administrators. Young boys from noble families were educated in horsemanship, archery, and the skills necessary for governance and military command. The priests, or magi, were also trained in the religious and philosophical teachings of Zoroastrianism. While education was not as widespread as in some other ancient civilizations, the administrative efficiency and intellectual traditions of Persia left a lasting legacy in the regions they ruled. In summary, the social life of the Persian Empire was shaped by its vast territory, diverse cultures, and highly organized administration. The empire's emphasis on tolerance and infrastructure created a multicultural society where people from various backgrounds could coexist and thrive. Religion, trade, and social structures played central roles in unifying the empire's diverse regions, ensuring its stability and prosperity. As we move forward, we will explore the sophisticated urban life and social dynamics of another ancient civilization, the Indus Valley Civilization. The Indus Valley Civilization, urban planning and daily routines. The Indus Valley Civilization, which flourished around 2600 to 1900 BCE, was one of the world's earliest urban societies. Located in what is now modern-day Pakistan and northwestern India, this civilization was characterized by its advanced urban planning, impressive architecture, and a way of life that revolved around its carefully structured cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Social life in the Indus Valley was shaped by its intricate city layouts, well-developed trade networks, and a social system that prioritized organization, cleanliness, and community. The cities of the Indus Valley were remarkable for their advanced urban planning. Streets were laid out in a grid-like pattern, with well-constructed brick houses, drainage systems, and public baths. This level of planning indicates a highly organized society with an emphasis on hygiene and public health. The Great Bath of Mohenjo-daro, for instance, was likely used for ritual purification and social gatherings, highlighting the importance of water and cleanliness in daily life. Public wells were strategically placed throughout the cities, ensuring that all inhabitants had access to clean water. The presence of these communal facilities suggests a society that valued collective well-being and organized efforts to maintain a healthy living environment. The houses in the Indus Valley were made of uniform, baked bricks and often had 2 or more stories. Many homes had access to private wells and were equipped with bathrooms, connected to a sophisticated drainage system that ran beneath the streets. This focus on sanitation was unique for its time and indicates that cleanliness was not just a personal matter but a communal responsibility. The uniformity in building materials and city layouts also suggests a degree of social equality, as houses were relatively similar in design, regardless of the occupant status. This contrasts with other ancient civilizations where social hierarchy was more visibly reflected in housing. Social organization in the Indus Valley civilization appears to have been relatively egalitarian compared to other ancient societies. There is little evidence of distinct palaces or monuments dedicated to kings or elites, which suggests that power might have been distributed more equally among the people or that the society was governed by a collective or council rather than a singular ruler. The lack of monumental architecture dedicated to rulers also indicates that the focus was on communal and practical structures, such as granaries and public baths, rather than displays of personal power. This emphasis on shared spaces and public amenities highlights a culture that prioritized the welfare of the community. Religion likely played an important role in the daily life of the Indus Valley people, although the specifics remain somewhat mysterious due to the undeciphered nature of their script. Artifacts such as seals featuring animals, deities, and symbols indicate that they engaged in religious practices and rituals. Some seals depict what appears to be a proto-Shiva figure, suggesting the early roots of Hindu religious traditions. The Great Bath of Mohenjo-daro may have had a religious function, as its design suggests it was used for ritual bathing, a practice that has continued in Indian culture for thousands of years. While the exact details of their religious beliefs remain unclear, it is evident that spirituality and ritual were integrated into their society. Trade was a vital aspect of the Indus Valley civilization's economy and social life. The civilization had extensive trade networks that connected it with distant regions, such as Mesopotamia, Persia, and even as far as Central Asia. The rivers, including the Indus and its tributaries, facilitated trade, allowing merchants to transport goods efficiently. The Indus people traded items such as beads, ceramics, cotton textiles, and metals, exchanging these with other cultures for resources like tin, copper, and precious stones. Seals discovered in Mesopotamian cities bearing Indus symbols indicate that merchants from the Indus Valley were active participants in international trade. These trade connections not only supported the economy but also created opportunities for cultural exchange and interaction with neighboring civilizations. Artisanship thrived in the Indus Valley cities, as evidenced by the numerous artifacts and crafts found at archaeological sites. Skilled artisans produced pottery, beads, metal tools, and decorative items, many of which were traded both locally and abroad. Beadmaking was a particularly refined craft, with artisans using materials like carnelian and lapis lazuli to create intricate designs. The presence of workshops and uniform manufacturing techniques suggests a highly organized production system where specific neighborhoods or quarters may have been dedicated to different crafts. This division of labor indicates a structured society where various professions were valued and supported the city's economy. Agriculture was the foundation of the Indus Valley economy. The fertile plains of the Indus River supported the cultivation of wheat, barley, peas, and cotton, the latter being particularly significant as the Indus Valley is one of the earliest known civilizations to cultivate and weave cotton. Farmers relied on seasonal flooding to irrigate their fields, and they developed techniques to manage water flow for their crops. Surplus grain was stored in large granaries, suggesting that the society was organized enough to manage resources and plan for future needs. These granaries, located within city complexes, were essential in supporting the urban population and sustaining trade. Family life in the Indus Valley seems to have been centered around the household, with extended families likely living together in the multi-story houses typical of the cities. The presence of household wells and private bathing areas indicates a focus on privacy and family-oriented spaces. Artifacts such as toys, pottery, and figurines suggest that family life included a focus on domestic activities and perhaps some form of education or craftsmanship training for children. While evidence is limited, the uniformity in housing and artifacts hints at a society where family structures and daily routines were similar across different social strata. Despite its advancements, much about the Indus Valley civilization remains a mystery, primarily due to the undeciphered script found on seals and pottery. The lack of written records limits our understanding of their governance, religion, and detailed social structures. However, the archaeological evidence points to a society that valued organization, cleanliness, and community well-being, as seen in their urban planning, sanitation systems, and shared facilities like the Great Bath. The eventual decline of the Indus Valley civilization around 1900 BCE is still debated among historians and archaeologists. Possible explanations include climate change, which may have led to a reduction in the river flow and agricultural productivity, or shifts in trade routes that disrupted the economy. Regardless of the reasons, the legacy of the Indus Valley civilization lives on, particularly in the influence it had on subsequent cultures in the region and its pioneering urban planning techniques. In summary, the Indus Valley civilization was an advanced urban society that prioritized public health, trade, and community organization. Its cities, characterized by impressive infrastructure and a focus on hygiene, set a standard for urban planning that influenced later civilizations. Social life in the Indus Valley revolved around trade, agriculture, and religious practices, all of which were interconnected within the well-organized city structures. As we move forward, we will explore another ancient society with its own unique social dynamics, ancient China and the dynastic structures that shaped its social fabric. Ancient China, the dynastic social structures. Ancient China's social life was deeply influenced by its dynastic system, which created a structured society governed by Confucian values, family hierarchies, and a complex bureaucracy. Throughout various dynasties, such as the Shang, Zhou, Qin, and Han, Chinese society developed a distinct social structure that prioritized order, loyalty, and respect for authority. The dynastic system, along with the agricultural foundation of the economy, shaped the daily lives, traditions, and interactions of the Chinese people for centuries. The structure of Chinese society was organized hierarchically, with the emperor at the top. The emperor was considered the son of heaven and held the mandate of heaven, a concept that legitimized his rule as divinely chosen. The emperor's duty was to maintain harmony and prosperity in the realm, and his authority extended over all aspects of life, from politics to religion. The imperial court, located in cities like Chang'an, modern Xi'an, was the center of power, where the emperor, his family, and the nobility lived in grand palaces, surrounded by courtiers, officials, and scholars. The imperial court was not only a political center but also a hub of culture, art, and knowledge. Beneath the emperor was the bureaucracy, a highly organized system of government officials who were responsible for managing the provinces and maintaining order. The civil service was based on merit, with positions awarded through imperial examinations, which tested candidates on their knowledge of Confucian philosophy, literature, and law. These exams ensured that government officials, known as scholars, were educated and capable of upholding the values of the state. Scholars, or shi, were highly respected in Chinese society, as they were seen as the embodiment of Confucian ideals and the protectors of order and morality. The system of examinations and meritocracy set a standard for governance that influenced Chinese society for centuries and created a class of intellectual elites who played a significant role in shaping culture and policy. Nobles and landowners were another influential group in ancient Chinese society. They controlled large estates and collected taxes from the peasants who worked their lands. The nobility often held military titles and were expected to provide soldiers in times of war. Nobles enjoyed privileges such as living in luxurious estates, wearing fine silk garments, and participating in hunting expeditions and banquets, which were important social events that displayed wealth and power. However, their power was always subject to the emperor's authority, and they were expected to remain loyal to the dynasty. The balance of power between the emperor and the nobility was a central dynamic in Chinese history, as different dynasties sought to manage the influence of these powerful landowners. The majority of the population consisted of peasants, who formed the backbone of Chinese society. Peasants lived in rural villages and worked the land, growing crops like rice, millet, and wheat. Agriculture was the foundation of the economy, and the success of the harvest was crucial for the stability of the state. The Chinese developed advanced agricultural techniques, such as irrigation systems and terracing, to maximize productivity, particularly in the fertile regions along the Yellow River and Yangtze River. Peasants, although at the bottom of the social hierarchy, were highly valued in Confucian thought, which regarded their work as essential for the well-being of society. However, they were also expected to pay taxes and provide labor for state projects, such as building roads, walls, and irrigation systems. These obligations sometimes led to unrest when taxes were high or harvests were poor. Artisans and merchants formed the middle tier of society. Artisans worked in cities and towns, producing goods such as pottery, bronze tools, silk textiles, and jade carvings. Chinese artisans were highly skilled, and their craftsmanship was renowned across the ancient world, particularly during the Shang and Zhou dynasties when bronze working and silk production flourished. These artisans often worked in guilds, passing their skills down through generations, and their products were traded both locally and abroad. Merchants, while essential to the economy, were often viewed with suspicion in Confucian society, which valued agriculture and the stability of rural life over commerce. Despite their economic importance, merchants were considered a lower class because their wealth was seen as derived from others' labor rather than through productive means like farming. However, some merchants became very wealthy, particularly those involved in the Silk Road trade that connected China to Central Asia, India, and beyond. The expansion of trade routes during the Han Dynasty led to greater cultural exchange, introducing new goods, ideas, and technologies to Chinese society. Markets in cities like Chang'an were bustling centers where merchants, artisans, and farmers interacted, traded goods, and exchanged news. Religion and philosophy played a central role in ancient Chinese social life, with Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism influencing the values and practices of society. Confucianism emphasized hierarchy, duty, and the importance of family, promoting the idea that a harmonious society was built upon the respect and loyalty between ruler and subject, parent and child, and husband and wife. Confucian ideals shaped the way people interacted in daily life, from the conduct of officials at court to the behavior expected within the household. Ancestor worship was also an integral aspect of Confucianism, and families would perform rituals and make offerings to honor their ancestors, ensuring their spirits watched over and blessed the living. Taoism, with its emphasis on harmony with nature and the pursuit of spiritual balance, influenced Chinese medicine, art, and practices such as Qigong and Tai Chi. Temples and monasteries dedicated to Taoist practices were common, especially in rural areas where people sought spiritual guidance and healing. The spread of Buddhism from India during the Han Dynasty further enriched Chinese spiritual life, leading to the construction of Buddhist temples, the development of monastic communities, and the blending of Buddhist teachings with native traditions. These religious and philosophical systems coexisted, providing a diverse spiritual landscape that influenced both public and private life. Family was the fundamental unit of Chinese society, and filial piety, or respect for one's parents and ancestors, was a core value. Households were often multi-generational, with grandparents, parents, and children living together. The eldest male, usually the father, was the head of the household and held authority over all members. Women, while subordinate to men in Confucian ideology, played crucial roles within the family, managing the household and raising children. Noblewomen had some influence in managing estates and could receive education, while common women primarily focused on domestic responsibilities. Arranged marriages were common, and they often served to strengthen family alliances and social connections. Education was highly valued, particularly among the elite, as it was the pathway to becoming a scholar official. Boys from noble families were educated in the classics, literature, and martial arts, preparing them for the imperial examinations. Schools, often attached to temples or administrative centers, provided a rigorous education aimed at producing knowledgeable and morally upright officials. Although education for girls was rare, some daughters of noble families received training in managing households, poetry, and music, reflecting the value placed on cultured and refined behavior. In summary, social life in ancient China was shaped by its dynastic structure, Confucian values, and a focus on family and agricultural stability. The emperor, bureaucracy, and nobility formed the ruling classes, while peasants, artisans, and merchants supported the economy. Religion and philosophy provided moral guidance, influencing the way people interacted and lived their lives. As we continue, we will explore the Celtic tribes of Europe and how their village life and traditions shaped their society. The Celtic tribes of Europe, village life and traditions. The Celtic tribes, which spread across much of Europe from Ireland to Galatia, modern Turkey, formed a diverse and widespread cultural group known for their strong village communities, warrior traditions, and rich oral storytelling. Unlike the centralized empires of Rome or Persia, the Celts lived in a network of tribes, each with its own leaders, customs, and territories. Social life among the Celts was centered around village life, and the tribe was the primary unit of social organization, where kinship, honor, and community were highly valued. Celtic villages were often located in hill forts or enclosed settlements that provided protection against rival tribes and invaders. These hill forts, such as Danbury in Britain or Oppidum in France, were fortified with walls and ditches, and they served as centers for trade, religious ceremonies, and social gatherings. The village community was a tightly knit group where everyone had a role, from farmers and warriors to artisans and druids. The focus on village life and the importance of kinship ties created a strong sense of identity and belonging among the Celtic people. The social structure of Celtic tribes was hierarchical but also relatively flexible compared to other ancient societies. At the top were the chieftains or kings, who were often chosen based on their bravery, wisdom, and leadership abilities rather than inheritance alone. These leaders were responsible for defending the tribe, managing resources, and settling disputes. While power was generally passed down through noble families, a capable warrior or charismatic leader could rise to prominence and challenge the established order. The Celts valued individual bravery and honor, so leadership was often earned through deeds and reputation. Noble families, or the warrior aristocracy, played a crucial role in Celtic society. These warriors formed the backbone of the tribe's defense, and their status was closely tied to their martial prowess and loyalty to their chieftain. Noblemen lived in larger, fortified homes within the village and often surrounded themselves with loyal warriors, creating small bands that were vital for the tribe's protection and expansion. The warrior class was not only responsible for defense but also participated in raids and expeditions, which were opportunities to gain wealth and prestige. The Druids, who were the priests, judges, and scholars of Celtic society, held significant influence over both religious and secular affairs. Druids were the keepers of Celtic law and tradition, and they presided over religious ceremonies, legal disputes, and education. They were believed to possess knowledge of the supernatural and acted as intermediaries between the people and the gods. Druids often lived in the forests or secluded areas and gathered for important festivals, such as Samhain and Beltane, which marked seasonal changes in agricultural cycles. These festivals were not only religious but also social events where tribes came together to celebrate, exchange goods, and forge alliances. The bards, another respected group, were the storytellers and poets of the Celtic tribes. They preserved the history and traditions of their people through epic tales, songs, and poetry, which were passed down orally from generation to generation. Bards played an essential role in maintaining the cultural heritage of the Celts and were often present at feasts and gatherings, where they entertained warriors and nobles with tales of heroism and the deeds of their ancestors. Their ability to influence public opinion and honor or shame individuals made them powerful figures within Celtic society. Agriculture was the foundation of the Celtic economy, and most people in Celtic villages worked as farmers. The Celts cultivated crops such as wheat, barley, and oats, and they raised livestock, including cattle, sheep, and pigs. Celtic farmers practiced crop rotation and used iron tools, which were more efficient than the stone tools of earlier times, improving agricultural productivity. The communal nature of village life meant that farming was often a collective effort, with families working together to plow fields, plant seeds, and harvest crops. The importance of farming was reflected in Celtic festivals, which were closely tied to the agricultural calendar and celebrated the sowing and harvesting seasons. Artisans also played a crucial role in Celtic villages, producing tools, weapons, pottery, textiles, and jewelry. The Celts were skilled metalworkers, known for their expertise in crafting iron weapons, bronze decorations, and intricate gold torques, which were worn as symbols of status and wealth. Workshops within the villages were hubs of activity, where artisans passed down their skills through generations. These artisans traded their goods both locally and with neighboring tribes, and their craftsmanship was highly valued throughout Europe. Trade was an essential aspect of Celtic society, and the Celts established extensive trade networks across Europe. They traded goods such as salt, furs, leather, and iron, which were transported along rivers and through forest paths that connected distant tribes. The Celts also interacted with Mediterranean civilizations like the Greeks and Romans, exchanging products such as wine, olive oil, and pottery for Celtic raw materials and crafted items. These trade routes not only supported the economy but also facilitated cultural exchange, bringing new ideas and technologies to Celtic villages. Family life in Celtic tribes was centered around the extended family, and kinship ties were the basis of social organization. Families lived together in roundhouses, made of wood and thatch, which were designed to withstand the varied climates of Europe. The roundhouse, with its central hearth, was the heart of family life, where meals were prepared and stories were told. The communal nature of Celtic society extended to child-rearing, as children were often educated collectively within the village, learning the skills needed for farming, craftsmanship, and, for those of noble birth, combat and leadership. Women in Celtic society had relatively more freedom compared to other ancient cultures. Noble women could own property, manage estates, and, in some tribes, even participate in battles as warriors. The importance of women is also reflected in the myths and stories of Celtic culture, where female figures like Queen Boudica of the Iceni tribe and Macha, a goddess associated with war and sovereignty, played prominent roles. Marriage in Celtic society was often arranged to strengthen alliances between families or tribes, and the bonds of marriage were seen as important for maintaining social stability. Religion was deeply embedded in the social and cultural life of the Celts. The Celts believed in a pantheon of gods and goddesses associated with natural elements like the sun, rivers, and forests. Sacred sites such as groves, rivers, and stone circles were used for worship and offerings. The Druids, as spiritual leaders, performed ceremonies to honor these deities and ensure the tribe's prosperity. The natural world was considered sacred, and many aspects of daily life, from farming to warfare, were believed to be influenced by the gods. Seasonal festivals like Samhain, which marked the end of the harvest and the beginning of winter, were occasions for the entire tribe to come together, reinforcing social bonds and celebrating the cycle of life and death. In summary, social life among the Celtic tribes was rooted in the strength of the village community, the importance of kinship, and the warrior culture that defined their identity. The Celts lived in close-knit societies where everyone contributed to the well-being of the tribe, and the hierarchy was flexible enough to allow individuals to rise through bravery and skill. Religion, storytelling, and festivals played crucial roles in uniting tribes, preserving culture, and celebrating life. As we continue, we will explore the civilizations of Mesoamerica, including the Mayan and Aztec social systems. The civilizations of Mesoamerica, Mayan and Aztec social systems. The civilizations of Mesoamerica, particularly the Maya and Aztec cultures, developed complex social systems characterized by their unique urban centers, agricultural advancements, and deeply rooted religious beliefs. The Maya, who flourished from around 250 CE to 900 CE, and the Aztec, who rose to prominence in the 14th century, created societies that were organized around city-states, each with its own political and social structures. The social life of these civilizations was deeply intertwined with their urban environments, religious practices, and intricate class hierarchies. The Maya civilization was composed of city-states such as Tikal, Palenque, and Copan, each ruled by a king who was believed to have divine authority. These kings, known as Ajah, were considered intermediaries between the gods and the people. They performed religious rituals, oversaw ceremonies, and led their armies in battles. The Maya society was highly stratified, with the ruling class at the top, followed by the nobility, who were responsible for administrative duties, priesthood roles, and supporting the king's power. The nobles lived in grand palaces within the city centers, which were adorned with intricate carvings and murals depicting the achievements of their rulers. Beneath the nobility were the commoners, who made up the majority of the population. Commoners worked as farmers, artisans, and laborers, providing the economic foundation for the city-states. The Maya cultivated crops such as maize, beans, squash, and cacao, using advanced agricultural techniques like terracing and raised fields to maximize productivity in the tropical environment. Farmers lived in thatched roof houses on the outskirts of the city centers, and they contributed a portion of their harvest to the ruling elite as tribute. This tribute system was essential for maintaining the wealth and stability of the city-state. The priesthood was an influential class within Maya society, playing a central role in religious and civic life. Priests, who were often members of the noble families, conducted rituals and ceremonies that were believed to ensure the favor of the gods and the stability of the cosmos. The Maya were deeply religious, worshipping a pantheon of gods associated with natural elements like the sun, rain, and maize. Temples, often built as towering pyramids, served as the focal points of these rituals, where priests performed bloodletting and other offerings to appease the gods. Religious festivals, held according to the Maya calendar, were vital social events where the community gathered to celebrate and reaffirm their connection to the divine. Education in Maya society was primarily reserved for the nobility and priesthood. Young nobles were trained in reading hieroglyphics, mathematics, and astronomy, which were crucial for maintaining the complex Maya calendar system and interpreting omens. The Maya were advanced in their understanding of astronomy, and their knowledge allowed them to align their temples and pyramids with celestial events. Commoners, on the other hand, were typically educated in the skills necessary for farming, craftsmanship, or military service, depending on their family's role within the community. The Aztec Empire, which emerged in the Valley of Mexico with its capital at Tenochtitlan, was similarly organized around a strict social hierarchy. At the top of Aztec society was the Tlatoani, or emperor, who was considered the representative of the gods on earth. The Tlatoani wielded absolute power, commanding armies, overseeing the tribute system, and performing important religious ceremonies. The emperor's court included noble families who held administrative and military positions, ensuring the efficient governance of the empire's vast territories. The Aztec nobility, or Pipiltin, played a crucial role in maintaining the empire's power. Nobles managed provinces, collected tribute, and served as military leaders. The tribute system was essential for the empire's economy. Conquered cities and regions were required to pay tribute in the form of goods like maize, textiles, jade, and precious metals. The wealth collected through tribute supported the construction of monumental architecture in Tenochtitlan, including temples, palaces, and the vast marketplace known as Tlatelolco, which was one of the largest in the Americas. Commoners, or Mazahualtin, formed the backbone of Aztec society. They worked as farmers, artisans, and merchants, contributing to the empire's economy and urban growth. Farmers cultivated chinampas, or floating gardens, which were an innovative agricultural technique that allowed the Aztecs to grow food in the shallow lakes surrounding Tenochtitlan. These gardens provided a steady supply of crops, such as maize, beans, and chili peppers, which were essential for sustaining the city's large population. Artisans produced a wide range of goods, from pottery and textiles to jewelry and weapons, some of which were used locally while others were traded in the bustling markets. The Paktica, or merchant class, held a unique position in Aztec society. These merchants were not only traders but also acted as spies and diplomats, gathering intelligence on distant lands while conducting trade expeditions. The Paktica traveled great distances, trading goods like feathers, cacao, and obsidian with other regions in Mesoamerica. They lived in separate neighborhoods and had their own guilds, enjoying a status higher than most commoners due to their economic importance and their role in expanding the empire's influence. Religion was central to Aztec social life, influencing everything from daily routines to state politics. The Aztecs worshipped a pantheon of gods, the most significant being Huitzilopochtli, the god of war and the sun. The Templo Mayor, the main temple in Tenochtitlan, was dedicated to Huitzilopochtli and Tlaloc, the god of rain. Rituals performed at the Templo Mayor included human sacrifices, which the Aztecs believed were necessary to sustain the sun and maintain cosmic balance. These sacrifices were often war captives, and the rituals served both religious and political purposes, demonstrating the power of the emperor and the priests. Festivals, such as the Feast of Huitzilopochtli, were important social events where the entire community participated. These festivals involved music, dance, feasting, and processions, reinforcing social bonds and the shared identity of the Aztec people. The market at Tlatelolco also served as a social hub where people gathered not only to trade but also to exchange news, socialize, and connect with people from different parts of the empire. Family life in both Maya and Aztec societies was organized around the extended family, with households often including multiple generations. Men were responsible for farming, crafting, and warfare, while women managed the household, prepared food, and wove textiles. Education for children was gender-specific. Boys were taught farming and combat skills, while girls learned domestic tasks. In the Aztec Empire, there were also Calmecac schools for the nobility, where boys learned advanced subjects like religion, law, and warfare to prepare them for leadership roles. In summary, the civilizations of Mesoamerica, particularly the Maya and Aztec cultures, developed complex social systems centered around urban centers, religious practices, and agricultural economies. Their societies were hierarchical, with kings and emperors holding divine authority, supported by nobility, priests, and a large commoner population that sustained the city-states through farming and craftsmanship. Religion and festivals played crucial roles in uniting the people and reinforcing the power structures that defined their civilizations. As we move forward, we will explore another ancient society shaped by its maritime culture and trade networks, the Phoenicians. Phoenicia, the maritime society and Mediterranean trade. The Phoenicians, an ancient civilization that thrived along the eastern coast of the Mediterranean in what is now Lebanon, were known for their maritime prowess and extensive trade networks. The cities of Tyre, Sidon, and Byblos were the centers of Phoenician society, which was characterized by its seafaring abilities, trade dominance, and influence across the Mediterranean. Social life in Phoenicia revolved around its bustling ports, shipbuilding industry, and the commerce that connected them to distant lands, from Egypt and Greece to the far reaches of North Africa and Iberia. The Phoenician social structure was organized around the city-state model, similar to other ancient civilizations like Greece. Each city-state operated as an independent entity with its own rulers, administration, and economy. The rulers, often referred to as kings, were typically drawn from noble families and held significant authority over trade, defense, and religious affairs. These kings managed the city's resources, organized the building of ships and infrastructure, and oversaw diplomatic relations with other states. The kings, along with the elite merchant families, formed the highest social class in Phoenician society. Phoenician society placed a high value on trade and commerce, as their economy was built upon their expertise as sailors and merchants. The merchant class, which included wealthy traders and shipowners, played a crucial role in the prosperity of Phoenician cities. These merchants traveled across the Mediterranean, establishing colonies and trading posts in regions such as Carthage in modern Tunisia, Malta, Sardinia, and Cadiz in Spain. The colonies not only facilitated trade but also served as cultural and economic outposts that extended Phoenician influence. Merchants exchanged goods like timber, particularly the prized cedar wood from Lebanon, glassware, purple dye made from murex shells, and other luxury items for raw materials, metals, and foodstuffs from foreign lands. The shipbuilders of Phoenicia were among the most skilled in the ancient world. The Phoenicians were known for constructing swift, sturdy ships designed for long-distance trade and naval prowess. These ships, such as the trireme, allowed them to navigate vast distances and dominate Mediterranean trade routes. Shipbuilding was not only a technical skill but also a vital part of the social fabric of Phoenician cities. Shipyards were bustling centers of activity where artisans, carpenters, and laborers worked together, and their expertise contributed significantly to the wealth and power of their city-states. Beneath the merchant and artisan classes were the laborers and sailors, who formed the backbone of the maritime economy. These individuals worked in shipyards, loaded cargo, and manned ships that sailed to distant lands. Sailors were highly skilled and experienced in navigating the challenging waters of the Mediterranean, making them valuable members of Phoenician society. Despite their lower social status compared to merchants and nobles, sailors were essential for maintaining the trade networks that sustained the Phoenician economy. Life at sea was difficult, but it offered opportunities for travel and adventure, and many sailors took pride in their roles as the conduits of Phoenician influence across the known world. Religion played an integral role in Phoenician society, and each city-state had its own patron deities and temples. The Phoenicians worshipped a pantheon of gods, with Baal and Astarte, known as Ishtar in Mesopotamia, being among the most prominent. Temples dedicated to these gods were not only places of worship but also centers of social and economic activity. Priests, who held high status within the community, performed rituals to ensure the protection of the city's ships and the success of its merchants. Religious festivals, such as those celebrating Melkart, the god of Tyre, were important social events that brought the community together, reinforcing their shared identity and devotion to the gods who were believed to protect them during their voyages. The artisans of Phoenicia were highly skilled in various crafts, including glassmaking, metalwork, and textile production. One of their most famous products was the Tyrian purple dye, a luxurious and expensive pigment extracted from the murex shellfish. This dye was highly sought after by elites across the Mediterranean, as it became a symbol of wealth and royalty. The production of this dye was labor-intensive, and its trade brought immense wealth to the cities of Tyre and Sidon. Phoenician glassware was also renowned for its quality and craftsmanship, and it was traded widely, further enhancing the reputation of Phoenician artisans. The role of women in Phoenician society varied depending on their social status. Women from noble and merchant families could hold influence within the household and were often involved in managing trade enterprises and family businesses. In some cases, women acted as priestesses, participating in religious ceremonies and rituals. However, for most women, life was centered around the home and family. They were responsible for managing domestic affairs, raising children, and producing textiles. Phoenician women, especially in noble families, could sometimes inherit wealth and property, granting them a degree of economic independence that was less common in other ancient societies. Family life in Phoenicia was organized around the extended family, with households often including multiple generations. Family ties were crucial for maintaining social and economic stability, and marriages were often arranged to strengthen alliances between merchant families or noble houses. Children, especially boys from wealthy families, were trained in the skills necessary for trade, navigation, and business management. Education was practical, aimed at ensuring the continuation of family enterprises and the prosperity of the city-state. The Phoenicians also had a deep appreciation for knowledge and writing, and they are credited with developing the alphabet, which greatly influenced the Greek and Latin scripts. This innovation simplified writing and facilitated communication and record-keeping, making trade and administration more efficient. The spread of the Phoenician alphabet across the Mediterranean facilitated cultural exchange and communication among diverse peoples, leaving a lasting impact on the ancient world. Despite their economic prowess, the Phoenicians did not pursue a unified political structure like the empires of Rome or Persia. Instead, their power was decentralized, with each city-state operating independently. This lack of political unity made them vulnerable to outside forces, and over time, Phoenician cities came under the control of larger empires like the Assyrian, Babylonian, and eventually the Persian Empire. Even under foreign domination, however, the Phoenicians maintained their influence through trade, continuing to operate their extensive networks and expand their colonies. In summary, social life in Phoenicia was defined by its maritime economy, the wealth of its merchant class, and the skills of its artisans and shipbuilders. The cities of Phoenicia were vibrant centers of trade and cultural exchange, where religion, commerce, and craftsmanship were deeply interconnected. The Phoenicians' ability to navigate the seas and establish colonies far from their homeland allowed them to spread their influence and create a legacy that endured even as their city-states came under the rule of foreign powers. As we conclude our exploration of social life in the ancient world, we reflect on the diverse ways in which different civilizations adapted to their environments and created complex societies that have left lasting legacies. As we come to the end of our whispered journey through the social lives of ancient civilizations, we've explored how diverse societies across the world, from the structured cities of the Egyptians and Mesopotamians to the dynamic polis life of the Greeks and the vast empire of Rome, shaped their communities. We looked into the advanced urban planning of the Indus Valley, the dynastic order of ancient China, and the village traditions of the Celts. We also discovered the rich cultural tapestries of the Maya and Aztec societies and the maritime dominance of the Phoenicians. Each civilization had its unique approach to building social systems that thrive through trade, religion, family, and community. Thank you so much for joining me in this exploration of ancient social life. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell to stay updated with future Whispering Tales. Your support helps us continue to create these immersive journeys into the past. Until next time, take care and sweet dreams.